The day begins with the typical chaos in the Jetsons household. George is rushing around, trying to find his missing tie, while Elroy is deeply engrossed in his new science project. Pieces are scattered all over the house, adding to the disorder. Judy, oblivious to the commotion, is in her room blasting music at full volume, completely ignoring the chaos. Jane, ever patient, tries to bring some order, but things are spiraling out of control. "George," she exclaims, suggesting, "Maybe it's time we get some help around the house." George reacts to the suggestion with skepticism. To him, the idea seems unnecessary and a potential waste of money. However, later that day, he arrives late to work again, earning a stern reprimand from Mr. Spacely. Desperate for a change, George gives in to Jane's idea. She finds an ad for a robotic helper named Rosie in the home database. Intrigued, Jane orders a free demonstration. When Rosie arrives, she transforms the household dynamic with her efficiency and charming personality. Despite Rosie's positive impact on Jane and the kids, George remains hesitant. He can't shake the worry that Rosie is an unnecessary expense, especially with Mr. Spacely demanding he improve his productivity. Things take a turn for the worse when Rosie accidentally dismantles the transport capsule Elroy was building while trying to clean. The incident creates a hilarious mess that amuses the family, but gives George yet another reason to doubt the robot. With the transport capsule broken, George faces another chaotic morning. He arrives late to work again, and Mr. Spacely doesn't miss the chance to scold him. During their argument, George mentions Rosie, further irritating his boss. Spacely insists George can't afford such a useless luxury at home. Jane, however, is determined to prove that Rosie is more than just an ordinary helper. She's a real solution to the family's problems. Spacely insists George can't afford such a useless luxury at home. Jane, however, is determined to prove that Rosie is more than just an ordinary helper. She's a real solution to the family's problems. Meanwhile, at Spacely's factory, a technical emergency completely halts production. The machines fail unexpectedly, causing significant losses. Spacely, on the verge of a meltdown, has no idea how to fix the problem. George, seeing an opportunity, suggests that Rosie could help. Spacely initially laughs off the idea as absurd, but with no other options, he reluctantly agrees to let Rosie attempt to resolve the crisis. Back at the Jetsons' home, Rosie is greeted with enthusiasm. Jane and the kids treat her like a true hero, celebrating her accomplishments. Rosie, however, remains humble and returns to her household duties as if nothing extraordinary had happened. George, still conflicted, grapples with the pressure from Spacely and Rosie's presence. He's torn between wanting to please his boss and recognizing that Rosie is a valuable addition to the family. Worried about George's reluctance, Judy and Elroy decide to take action. They create a detailed holographic presentation showcasing moments when Rosie made a significant difference in the family's routine. The presentation includes emotional images and recordings that highlight Rosie's usefulness and positive impact. Watching it, George begins to realize that Rosie is not just an efficient machine, but also an important part of their home. Gradually, his perspective on the robot starts to change. The situation escalates when Spacely demands that George deactivate Rosie immediately. Jane, determined to protect the robot, confronts George directly. "She's not just a machine, George. She's helped us in ways none of us could have imagined." Moved by Jane's words and his family's unwavering support, George realizes that Rosie is not just useful, but also a source of unity. For the first time, he considers defying his boss's orders. Determined to keep Rosie, George returns to the factory to confront Spacely. He presents a strong case, explaining that Rosie is not only functional but indispensable both at home and at work. Spacely, though reluctant, is impressed by George's courage and the results Rosie has delivered. After some consideration, he decides to rethink his stance. It's a pivotal moment for George, who finally feels he is standing up for what matters. Spacely, still hesitant, agrees to let George keep Rosie at home, but imposes a condition. She must be available to help at the factory whenever needed. George, realizing there's no other option, accepts the deal. Although the compromise is challenging, he is willing to make it to keep Rosie as part of the family. Jane and the kids celebrate the decision, while George feels a mix of relief and concern over Spacely's demands. Now, Rosie splits her time between being an exemplary household helper and playing a crucial role at Spacely's factory. Despite her dual role, she maintains her quirky and charismatic personality, earning even more admiration from everyone around her. Jane watches proudly as Rosie continues to organize the family's life, proving that it's possible to balance work and home. Her presence becomes indispensable for maintaining the household's harmony. Now, Rosie splits her time between being an exemplary household helper and playing a crucial role at Spacely's factory. Despite her dual role, she maintains her quirky and charismatic personality, earning even more admiration from everyone around her. Jane watches proudly as Rosie continues to organize the family's life, proving that it's possible to balance work and home. Her presence becomes indispensable for maintaining the household's harmony. At the end of the day, the Jetsons are gathered in the living room. George, reflective, realizes how much his life has changed since Rosie's arrival. He admits to himself that he never would have faced Spacely or overcome recent challenges without the unwavering support of his family and the robot. For the first time, he feels his home is complete, not just as a physical space, but as a place of unity and understanding. It's a moment of realization for George. In the final scene, Rosie is shown tidying up the living room with a gentle smile on her face. A notice flashes in her internal programming. Top priority, protect the Jetsons. The glimmer in her metallic eyes suggests something deeper. While she is a machine, Rosie has found a purpose that transcends her original programming. As the camera pans out, the family laughs together, and Rosie watches, knowing her mission is not just to serve, but to care for those she has come to love.